Good morning, lovely human beings. We're not only human, we are beings in human form. The human form is of the earth. The being is of the sky. So, it's like water and dirt. It becomes mud and you can create something. You can create a brand new you. Isn't that exciting? I have just had so many outpourings of love in my direction. And I understand that I deserve it. I receive it. I accept it. I love you back. And this is the way it goes. I love you. Oh, you love me. I love you. Oh, you love me. So I've been working with a situation in the hood. I like to sound hip and groovy, which is probably so old that nobody even knows what hip or groovy means, or everybody's saying groovy now. Only my plumber still says groovy. My plumber and I. That could be a book. The Plumber and I. Love is such a simple answer. What are you going to do about this? Love. Well, what about... Oh, yeah, with that, then I would love. Because all traumas are simply energy stuck to memory videos. And even if we can't see the video, even if the trauma was so great, and so maybe I'll open it up a bit today for you, because you're still watching. You're not at the 2-minute cutoff point. Let me just go with this. So at a certain point, I did a past life regression, and I've done thousands of past life regressions with people. And what's interesting about the past life regression is it's very much like healing fields, where in the quantum field, I don't understand it, so I'm not going to explain it to you. And I don't even know if this is accurate, my description. But in the quantum field, everything is happening now. That's why people say there is no past, there is no future, there's only now. So when you heal a trauma that you perceive to be from the past, so if you say, well, it was when I was 5 or 3 or whatever time, that you go back and relive it, how did you go back and relive it if it isn't happening now? So when you relive it, it's now. But how can it be now? Because I'm 73 years old and I'm going back to an experience when I was in the womb. And I went back to an experience which was before the womb. So what happened when I went back to the experience before the womb? I went back to my conception. So what that means, and hopefully this doesn't seem overly, well, I won't even use the word, but you get, and I don't know how I'm going to do the hand thing even, but you get, and I think for conception, in terms of the biological conception, not the lab conception. It's another thing. That's putting an egg and sperm together getting it to fertilize, and then inserting it somewhere, and it grows. It's definitely Flintstone. No, Jetsons. It's Jetsons. So anyway, in most of mammalian sexology, a male and a female come together, and they share some contact. And when an egg is present, and there's something like, it's either 4 million sperm, I think it is. And out of the 4 million sperm, typically one penetrates the egg. And it's actually when the egg senses the sperm that it wants, it opens to that sperm, and that sperm merges. And then it goes through a whole process of sharing the genetic material and then creating cells. And somehow, if you don't believe in magic, somehow the field of energy around that fetus, when the field of energy is intact, and my understanding, I don't know if it's true, it's just my understanding, it may be true. My understanding is that the soul, when it incarnates, brings in a blueprint of how it wants to be. That's why when you go back to a past life, you see yourself and you know yourself. And you know yourself whether you're a man in that past life or a woman in that past life. You go, oh, look, there I am. It's strange. So I'm going to get somewhat focused, even though I have crooked hands. And I can't make them right because I'm confused, because it's not a mirror image. It's like I'm sitting across from myself, so I can give myself 5. Yeah. All right. So, past life regression. You're under hypnosis, and you have an intention of where you're going to want it, where you want to go, and I wanted to go to my conception. So I went to my conception, and lo and behold, the person in physical relationship with my mother, who turned out was my father, but not the person I grew up with as my father. And it turns out that it was my mother's tennis partner. And if you played any tennis, you know sometimes there's a love match. And that must have been a love match. So at least I was created out of some pretty intense passion. So that made so much sense of me and my life, kind of how passionate I was. And I did this like in my 40s or 50s. But when I was, it must have been interesting for my mom, because 6 months after I was born, we left my biological father behind, and the 4 of us children and the 2 parents transported ourselves from Calgary, Alberta, Canada, to South Pasadena, California, where I was forced to remain for 24 years, surfing, skiing, and riding motocross bikes in the desert, and doing all sorts of things that climate people would be upset about, especially the motocross bikes, tearing up the desert, you know, and I didn't do much of it, so, you know, you can get mad at me for just briefly, because I maybe did it a couple times, but it was fun, and I was 17. Okay, so I went back to my conception, and then prior to going back to my conception, actually, I know exactly where about it was. It was I was in it was probably in the 80s that I went into a spontaneous rebirthing experience. And I went back to my birth, and my birth was traumatic. I was foot first. So there's a term for that. But you're supposed to come head first. That's kind of the easier way to do it. Of course, I don't do things the easy way. Or you can come foot first, and then typically, or sometimes, or in my case, the chin got caught on the pubic bone, and they were just trying to pull me out for a period of time, causing both my mother and I to suffer extensively, because I went back through it like 7 times, because that's the kind of guy I am. I went through it until I cleared all the pain of the experience and all the chemicals they eventually gave my mom to knock her out and me out, so we both were knocked out. And then they were able to get me out, because I was resisting them pulling my head off. Anyway, I can laugh about it now. At the time I was clearing it, those 7 times, it didn't seem funny at all. Then, because I was created out of this intense passion of 2 intensely passionate people, I wanted more. And so I went back to an experience that I had in the womb. And the experience that I had in the womb was that I was in a hospital, because you're not, as a being, you're not trapped in the body. Like, it's kind of like when you do a little astral travel. You have a body, you leave your body, and you go somewhere at night and do something. Well, under hypnosis, you can be having heart surgery, and a part of you is watching you having heart surgery. So I was in a hospital inside the womb, and they were attempting to abort me. Now, I was a pretty small fetus at the time, so it was just kind of like a probe, kind of like some kind of darning needle or something. They were trying to pluck me off the side. Hope this isn't bringing up too much stuff for you. It's not bringing up much stuff for me, because I've been through this thing more than once. Let's just leave it there. So, but I survived it. So I came out. And then I went back and did some healing work on that trauma, because at the time I was going back and watching everything, seeing who the doctors were, and seeing, hearing the words that were said and all that kind of stuff. But at one point I realized that there was another fetus in the womb with me. And I ended up meeting him in my 30s, early 30s. Yeah, probably about 33. Probably about the length of time Jesus lived on earth, supposedly, if he did, which I'm not saying he didn't. But it was probably around 33, because I remember where I was living, and that I had a child. And so I was about 33 years old when I met him, and he was 5 years younger, and we had been born 5 years apart, minus 1 day. So I was born on January 14th, Capricorn. He was born on January 15th, Capricorn. And eventually we found out that we were very much alike. And I made the observation that we probably would have, my parents had enough of a time with me in the house. My siblings had enough of a time with me in the house. They were so happy to get me out of that house. You can imagine, because I was always asking questions. Well, that's not what I heard happen. Okay, I'm having fun today. So I met this fellow. It was in Michigan. Over time, we got to know each other, and we began to have similar memories of events that had taken place. So I'm going to name one of them. So there was a planet where a bunch of hot doors. So I work with a hot doors. And let's just face it, I am a hot door in a body. Most of the beings I work with are hot doors out of bodies, except for all the traumatized hot doors who are here, probably you, living in a body that I've been trained to help recover from a trauma from the world that we are living on that blew. That might have just cleared it for you right there. But the planet blew up. So there's the deep self, there's the higher self, there's the highest self, and we can go into those consciousnesses. So when we were in a body, there is also that aspect of us that was watching ourselves in the body. And then as we watch that part that was in the body get blown to smithereens, there you can clear it again. It makes you feel really like, oh, yeah. It was like nothing like being on a planet that blows up. That's why I'm here, to help us all get over it. And not have a planet have to blow up to get over it. Let's not reproduce that event. But it's okay to reproduce that image and let go of the grief and the fear and the anger of just about that happening. Even if it was or wasn't your fault or anything else, it's time to release that anger, grief, and fear from that event now, if you want to. And I'll just say, it's been 1,000 people, 1,000 beings in bodies on the earth, at least 1,000 that I've gone back with and helped release this event. Not to mention Lemuria, Atlantis, and the Hathor planet, and just over and over again. A lot of shit's a lot of stuff's happened over the course of however many lifetimes we've had. And I keep coming back here because, gosh darn it, I want to get it right. Like one time. And this is the time I'm going to get it right. It's just how I feel about it. It may be true, but I'm trying to just like stay connected to the highest self, the whole master organism that humans are connected with in consciousness, and is working with the energetics in a real spiritual way. And if we're connected to it, then we're working with the energetics in a spiritual way as well. So, going back to the womb, here I was. Here my soon-to-be non-brother was. And we're both in there. And I'm getting poked and poked and poked and prodded, and I'm dodging, and I'm, you can do these things. The survival mechanism of the body is incredible. It wants to survive. So if something's striking it, it's going, what the hell? I'm in the womb. That wasn't supposed to happen. Oh, they did it again. What the heck? I'm moving away from that thing, and then that thing is just searching around and goes around and finds the umbilical cord and the placenta of my soon-to-be former brother, and they pluck it off and they pluck him out. And I'm in my own separate little bag, and I remain. To live, however many years, 30-some years before I go, oh, holy crap, they were attempting to end my life. So you wonder, you don't know, unless you've gone back and figured out some of the things that have made you so fearful and paranoid in this life, maybe in hospitals, whatever. But I would say, so I'm 73, I'd say I spent 60 years in fight or flight. And now I don't do fight or flight as a habit. So for 60 years, I was in fight or flight as a habit. Then I cleared it as a habit. And then for many years, I wasn't in fight or flight at all. I just gave it up. But I've been in so much fight or flight from the dream world. And there's so much fight or flight around me with my clients and neighbors. And there's so much fight or flight that it takes me an hour in the morning to clear it. So I've been working with the World Healing Field for 4.5 years. It was the end of January of 2020. We're heading on to the end of January of 2025. And then I just remembered why I was doing this video. All of that other stuff was just like some major healing that you needed to do, and I need to just tell stories while you did major healing. But that's good. We're good there. My former twin, later on he became my untwin, but we are still probably twins on some level, is still around, and he's a very knowledgeable conspiracist. And he and I have a lot of fun talking about things. And he sends me videos that I primarily don't watch because I just know the rabbit hole he's wanted me to go down with him. And I'm just like, I'm not a rabbit. In the Chinese astrology, I'm a tiger. If I was a rabbit, I'd go down the hole. But those holes are too small for tigers. So the tiger basically just likes to lie in the sun and make sounds in his chest. Okay, so as I was, this one might be a long one, and you like it or not, it might be a long one. So I want to go over, so this is going to be a multi-dimensional story, reading, calendar, mind calendar, tarot card day or video. And I'm going to go fairly quickly through it because I've already done this before, but I'm going to do it again because there might be somebody new who hasn't heard it and they're not going through and watching 308 videos to try to find it. So I want to talk to you about the solar kin. So each of us, depending on the day we were born, we got, on the day we were born, there was a solar tone going on and a lunar tone going on. So our first and last names are the solar. Our middle name is the lunar. So you can consider yourself a lunar tune or a lunar tone. Either one, a Looney Tune with a solar frame. I'm making this up right as I go. I'm like ad-libbing for, hopefully it doesn't say 30 minutes. So 23 minutes. So I gotta finish by 33. So I gotta finish in the next 10 minutes. I'm not gonna hurry though. I'm gonna slow down so I can finish at the right time. Okay, so this next month, on the date, I think it's the 9th day of 13 of the auspicious days of Pakal Votan. And everybody thought I was saying Paco, like P-A-C-O, but it's Pakal, P-A-C-A-L, Votan, V-O-T-A-N, and don't listen to my wife, it's not Boca Raton, because that's what she calls him, Boca Raton. Some people have no respect, or some people have total respect, and you don't know which it is, because maybe he likes the name Boca Raton. Now, maybe he's, nobody ever dies, so he's out there somewhere going like, why do I want to go to Boca Raton? Okay, so Pakal Votan, he was the sage, king, prophet of the Yucatec Mayan people, probably the Yucatan Peninsula. And he lived from the year 603 AD to 683 AD, so he was 80 years of age. And it seems like there's 2 days, there's 2 times where there are 10 galactic activation portals in a row. And this one coming up starts on the 9th day, a 9th auspicious day, recorded by Paco Votan or Boca Raton. Either one's fine with him. It's like the Hathors. They know you're talking to them. Okay. But the white world bridger is about equalizes death and opportunity. Here's from the Maori people. It's a statement about the white world bridger. You were, you will be. Know this while you are. Your spirit has traveled both long and afar. It rose from the source. To the source it returns. The spark which was lighted eternally burns. People, I used the example earlier about the abortion attempt. People have been trying to put our lights out for some time, and we just like, hey, stay away from that. Danger, danger, warning, warning. They're trying to kill me. Holy crap, what did I do? I haven't done anything. I'm just in the womb. And they're like, get this one. He's going to be trouble. They knew. They just energetically knew that I was coming to shift things up. And I was willing to take a few knocks on the way. Too many as far as I was concerned, but I was willing to take them. Okay, so this amazing day that's coming up, I'm going to try to get more focused. The world bridger represents revelation. Realization of the mortality of the physical body, the organic balance of life and death, the realm of neutrality which facilitates bridging and connection, intimate exchange with the spirit of the ancestors. Thumbs up or thumb up. Thumbs up sounds better. For some reason, I have no idea. Intimate exchange with the spirit of the ancestors. So think about that as what's going to be happening. So it's a day about balance, a day that equalizes death and opportunity. And you usually don't put those two words together, death and opportunity, unless it's the death of someone else and you have an opportunity to inherit some money, which I won't go into the story. But a friend of mine, a close friend of mine's brother-in-law befriended a man in the apartment complex over a period of a number of years. And they got to be friends, and they were old guys in their 70s. But they ended up just and watching videos every day together when they weren't out antiquing. The one guy really liked antiquing, and the other guy was like, yeah, I'll go with you. I'll hang out, walk around old stuff, see if I can feel the vibe of it. And the other guy was looking for special things. Anyway, long story short, one of the guys was from a reservation and had to go back to the reservation because there was some things happening that he needed to tend to. And then when he came back, hundreds of miles away to the apartment, he got back and it was discovered that his dear friend had died. Dear friend of 3 years. Watching sporting events. I think a lot on large screen television. So supposedly neither of them really had a dime, but they both had large screen televisions, so it could be like being in a bar. And I guess probably you could be in a bar. It was in Colorado, so you could be in a bar in Colorado and have a beer just to keep your mouth from getting dry. But they could do that at home, so why go to a bar and spend more money? So they didn't. So they stayed home and they watched TV, I think, most of the day, most days. But when he came back, his friend had passed away. And so he was kind of standing outside looking at the door, and there was people in his friend's room and doing things in there. And this one guy came out and he walked up and asked him if he knew where name given where he lived in the apartment. And he said, well, that's me. And he said, oh, well, my father passed away and left you in his will. He said, so you're on a couple things. And he said, and you know, I'm good for money, so I'm not contesting this. You know, it was my father's wish. It's fine with me. He wanted this. It's going to be the way it is. He said, but, you know, the first thing he did was he put you on his insurance policy. And the insurance policy was for $5 million. And he said, so, you know, with taxes or whatever, he says, you're going to get about $2.5 million. I'm getting a bigger TV. You can buy the theater now. He said, but that's not all. With my father's real estate and investments, he said he left a large portion of that to you, and that's valued at $66 million. You know, just making this motion, because I don't do this, but you can tell I did this as a teenager, so I'm familiar with it. But by doing this, it's reacting somehow chemically in my system, and I'm like starting to go, $66 million. I thought about if that had happened to me, what I would have done with it. And my thought was I'd get rid of it as fast as I could in good ways. Probably buying property and building low-income housing, which I think would just be very entertaining. And do it plop in the center of all the well-to-do liberal electric car drivers. I would just drop it right in the center of that town. See if the property values went up or down. For an experiment, just to have fun. Okay, white world bridger. I'm really feeling the effect of, which on a physical level I have not done in years. Yeah. It's not that I haven't thought about it, I just haven't done it. Okay. That's enough of that, because this is going to get on towards 40 or 50 minutes if I'm not careful and if I don't stay focused. Okay, so that day, White Lunar World Bridger is the 9th auspicious day of Boca Raton, or Paco Votan, which means it's a day in the spiral that when it hits this synchronized point of October 21st, major stuff can happen. I might even do that day just for fun, but probably not, because this is fun enough. I don't really need to do that to just be woo. Okay, so that's That day is the 9th day of the 13 days of Pakal Votan, or Boca Raton. It's also the first day of the 10 days of galactic activation portals, which run through October 30th. Then, on November 3rd, on a blue storm day, which is Alice's brother Malcolm, he's a blue storm, Alice leaves to go somewhere. I don't know. I'd have to look at the calendar, another calendar. But then, on November 16th, so there's that 10 days, galactic activation portals where energy's coming in, your DNA is shifting, you're going like, whoa, what's going on? What's going on? And then, really not that long after that. So that goes through the 30th of October, and then approximately 2 weeks later, kaboom, we get the 10th day of Boca Raton, leading up to, well, anyway, on November 16th, we have the 10th day of synchronistic shifts in consciousness, leading up to the 30th day of November, another white world bridger, guided by heart, and a new moon, another new moon, initiates 10 more days of galactic activation portals, ending in a blue crystal eagle. And I'm going to tell you, whether you want me to or not, what the blue eagle represents, which is vision. The blue eagle represents the mind and vision and creativity. That's where this 10 days of galactic activation portals, energy's coming in, our whole consciousness shifting, and we're going, what's going on? What's going on? Well, now you know what's going to be going on. I know we're talking about in the future, but it's going to be here before you know it. So you might as well be ready. And the statement is from Hazrat Inayat Khan. And I think he was a spiritual teacher. I don't know what kind of spiritual path he was on. Hazrat Inayat Khan. I think he was also a poet, or is a poet. I think he's gone now. But anyway, he said, Blue Eagle Day, he said, the journey towards perfection means rising above limitations, kind of like those we're currently having until whatever it was, till later. Rising so high that not the horizon of one country or one continent only is seen, but that of the whole world. And the higher we rise, the wider becomes the horizon of our view. Blue Eagle represents higher, not quite highest yet, but it represents the highest because it is the higher, which represents the highest. It's all levels of one thing. Represents higher collective mind, visionary creativity, and planetary consciousness. Often shown with a globe in its eye, Eagle holds an expansive scope, a grand planetary perspective. Seeing with a broad and objective view, we travel. Oh man, and I didn't even plug. Oh man, I hope you guys. Oh gosh, if I made a 40-minute video and nobody can hear it, how lucky that nobody's watched it. I'm going to be listening to it like, what? Okay. Seeing with a broad and objective view, we travel beyond our limited or narrow perceptions of ourselves, our lives, and our world. Elevating our consciousness to meet with the planet mind, we can discover what our unique personal contributions are to assist the planetary positive transformation of our shared reality. All who choose to attune to the planetary mind help inspire our collective consciousness to honor and serve the evolution of our living planet and global society. And to do this, we're calling on the Chariot. Major Arcana card 7. I can't call them trump cards anymore because we're nearing the election and I don't want people throwing things at my computer screen because I use the word Trump. But I don't know, there's like, how many? There's 22, I think, major Arcana cards or major Trump cards. And for the next month or so, we're going to be working with the 7 of Trumps, the Chariot, which represents the universal principle of change and causation. Taoist philosophy states that change is successful when both the great rooted tree by the flowing river are combined within a natural setting. This Oriental nature metaphor is a reminder that during times of change, like now possibly, it is necessary to incorporate in equal proportion the qualities of quietude, the great rooted tree, grounded, with activity, the flowing river. The Chariot depicts a figure in contemplation or quietude sitting within a chariot readied for activity. The Chariot illustrates that change is pervasive in that it touches every individual multidimensionally, which is pictured by the 4 pillars, the 4 wheels, and the 4 animals. All of these symbols represent the 4 elements or the elemental aspects of who we are mentally, emotionally, physically, and spiritually. So we are supported by the 7 of Trumps, the Chariot, which relates to the principles of change, movement, a combination of stillness and activity. Emerson, just name dropping, just going to name drop. Emerson. It's probably just Emerson because he didn't want anybody to know his first name was Ralph. Which, if you ever watched the Gleasons or something, I think it was Ralph Gleason, or there was a television show that I watched. Might have been Abbott and Costello. Ralph was, or maybe it was something completely different, but Ralph was not a name I associated with intelligence. But Emerson, that sounds pretty smart. So we're going to just go with Emerson. And Waldo, where's Waldo? Who named this guy Ralph Waldo and expected him to become someone famous? And he did, even with that name. But he just dropped the first 2 and he just goes, I'm Emerson. I think, oh, indeed you are. Okay. I don't know if this is going to be published. It's going to take too long to upload it anyway. But motion or change in identity or rest are the first and second secrets of nature. Motion or change and identity or rest are the first and second secrets of nature. Motion and rest. The whole code of her laws may be written on the thumbnail. This isn't a suggestion either. This is just to kind of have some fun during times where people literally are calling me or texting me and seriously with a SIRIUSLY, the dog star. So seriously, they're texting me or calling me up and saying, I'm freaking out. And I say, everybody's freaking out. You're just part of a large crowd of beings on a planet that's going through major architectural, hopefully, upgrade. So I'm putting the Mind calendar book away. I'm going to look in just 45 minutes. It's going to take long time to upgrade, and it's actually recording, so I'm going to find out what it says later because I was just having way too much fun. the 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 women are away. The cats are here. So it used to be the cats are away, the mice will play, but now it's the women are away, the boy will play. They'll be coming back at some point, but I'm glad they live here because they're very valuable in many ways. They're really good tarot card readers, so when I'm really going like, what? They just read a card and I go, oh, that's great. And they're both amazing cooks. And both super listeners and good talkers too. So, but they're so thoughtful that, you know, I wish it on everybody. I wish that every person in a man body can be good enough for people in women bodies to be willing to live with them. Okay, I think that's it. We gotta keep it rolling. So now let's go. And love you.